Have you ticked the record button, Matt, or would you like me to?
Just done it.
Great, sweet, thank you. Okay, now I think Matthew's got access to a QA area where he can show you a grade centre without actually hurting anyone's grade centre. And can you share your screen, Matt?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Let me know if you can see that.
Not yet. Can everyone see that?
I can see a screen that says launch meeting.
Ah,
There we go.
there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so for this exercise, for this demo, I've got a copy of this particular subject outline. It's just in a PDF version in this case, but under normal circumstances, yeah, the subject outlines just in the left menu here. I'll just turn up the resolution a bit so it's easier to see. Okay, so first thing is downloading the Grade Centre or making a backup. So we definitely recommend doing this at the start of the session and pretty much anytime you make sort of changes to the Grade Centre. It's quick and simple to do, and it's always good to have a copy at different stages throughout the session, just in case anything goes wrong or we need to do a restore or whatever the case is. So we've got the upload download button here, and you can do this at any time, and it downloads the Grade Centre in a spreadsheet format. So it's just a matter of going to download, leave the default options here, and just click on submit at the bottom, and then click on download. And you can see down the bottom here, it's just a XLS or Excel spreadsheet format. And then you can see here that it's exact duplicate of the Grade Centre with student IDs, names, etc., etc. And more importantly, the Grade Centre columns that we've got here. There's no marks in this particular Grade Centre at this point, so yeah, these three columns here empty because there's no marks, and then the cumulative mark and the calculated grade columns as well. So this is also used if you need to sort of bulk upload marks. So if you have a column that you need to calculate, you can then go back in here and enter in the marks, and then go in and do the upload to upload marks. But at this point, yeah, this is just demonstrating on how to download and back up your Grade Centre. So as I said at the start of the session, and pretty much, you know, any time through the session and towards the end, it's always good to have as many backups as possible, just in case. Now, next,
Right. Just a moment.
yeah.
So that's verifying your grades, your subject outline columns, Matt. You did that when you looked at the subject outline.
Yep.
Duplicate columns.
So if we have a look at the subject outline here, so in this particular subject, we've got 3 assessment items, and so they're all actually submitted via EASE in this particular example. So we've got 3 assessments, 30%, 30%, 40%, obviously adding up to a total of 100% of the assessment. Now, if we go to the Grade Centre, we can see here the 3 different columns represented the 3 different assessments on the subject outline. Now, if you keep an eye on up here under grade information bar, when I hover over the headings, if you look at the information pops up in this section here, it'll tell you sort of like a quick view of the information on that particular column. So the name of it, the assessment value. So as I said, this is 30%. How many students have submitted it and how many need grading. So depending on type of assessment, it will have sort of different values on how many students have submitted and attempts. So I usually just use this as a quick overview of, okay, this column and this assessment is worth this much. And if you hover over cumulative mark, then you can see it's out of 100. So in this scenario, we've got 30%, 30%, 40%, which adds up to 100, which in this case, cumulative mark is out of 100. So all that is currently correct.
So Matt, can you demonstrate the column information as well, where that is?
Yep. So in the once you hover over, you've got this drop-down menu here, and you can go into edit column information. And this is where you can make changes to the column. So by default, the column name should be correct and match the subject outline. We do tend to have some staff members like to change the column name for some reason. So the subject outline is created, and that's where all this information has come from. So if the subject outline is created correctly, then the information that flows into Grade Centre should be correctly, and there shouldn't be any reason to change these names, as it can cause confusion with students looking at the subject outline and why it doesn't correlate to the Grade Centre. Now, obviously, there is some sort of fringe cases where it doesn't need to be changed, but under normal circumstances, just leave the column name the same as the subject outline. The primary display is how it's how the mark or score is shown. So most of the time it will be a score. So if it's 30%, then it's a score of 30. The other one might be, which is not shown here, which is good, be satisfactory or unsatisfactory. They're the two main ones. And points possible, that's the 30%. You can also set up the due dates for that particular assessment.
These columns are generally provisioned by the subject outline. So it's particularly these ones. The I2 tools come in once the tools are deployed. So this is a very simple Grade Centre, this one. But yeah, that's how they get there. That's how they get their dates and a few things like that as well.
Yep. So the dates come from the subject outline. So when you open a subject before the subject outline has been published, then you won't have any of these columns in here. When the subject outline is published, it pushes through into Interact2 and into the Grade Centre and actually corrects these columns. Now this session we have had some issues with Turnitin. Turnitin was sort of pushed into production quite quickly, and the Grade Centre health check is not picking up Turnitin issues, and the Turnitin columns aren't being included in the cumulative mark, so that has caused some problems. So yeah, when we go through the cumulative mark, I can show you how to add, if you do have a Turnitin column that's not being included in the cumulative mark, we'll go through that.
Matt, this is a very simple example, but I know in the past we've had ones where what's in the subject outline, the percentage or the weighted marks, not actually what the assessment's out of. Will you be going through how you get that back to say the 30% when it might have been out of 110 or something like that?
Yeah, we can go through that. That's fine.
Great, thanks. Because this is a very, very simple one.
It is.
Yeah.
My usual training subjects gone AWOL. So yeah, it's sort of a last minute pull together. So yeah, it's not as complex as normal. Okay, duplicate columns.
We've just got a question mark. Matt, we've got, will that be all Turnitin marks for this semester, or is it just happening to some?
I think it is happening to all, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm working with the apps team. So I don't do the integration myself, but yeah, I'm working with the apps team to try and figure out the best way to do it. And obviously we've got a whole new LMS in the works as well. So I'm not sure at this stage on how much resources are going to go into correcting the Turnitin integration at this stage. So yeah, I'll let you know what happens there.
Will be comms going out to all the schools, Matt, to explain how to fix it, like for people that are not attending these sessions?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Yep, we can
Thanks.
do that.
Okay, so check the grade, the calculated grade and the cumulative mark. And that just shows how to integrate those columns. And I imagine these are how to integrate the Turnitin columns too. Is that where the
Yep.
problem's lying? Yeah.
I'll just hit the duplicate column first.
Oh yeah, sorry, duplicate columns. Yeah.
So with duplicate columns, this can happen for a couple of reasons, but mainly staff members will copy over their subject from the previous session into the current session. So you can imagine that the subject outline is published, which creates all the columns for this session, and the grade centre is looking correct. And then you do an import from the previous session, and that imports the previous grade centre. Now all of a sudden you've got double columns for some or all of your assessments, and that can get quite confusing. So in this case here, also one thing, just keep an eye out for the horizontal scroll. I have a lot of tickets about people thinking that columns are missing or they can't see them or whatever the case is, but they don't realize you can horizontally scroll here and you'll find them at the end. So they're just sort of hidden from view, but if you scroll across you can find them there if that happens to you. So with a duplicate column, I guess as with any grade centre column, we like to, if you don't think it should be there and you'd like to delete it, we sort of recommend to sort of rename it and hide it just in case, because if you do delete it and you do delete the wrong one, then trying to restore it or recreate it from scratch can be a bit of a pain. So if we sort of rename it and then hide it, then we can always come back and use it if need be. So in this case here, we've got 2 case research report columns. As I said, this one might be imported from the previous session, and you know you can get into a scenario which, okay, well, which one's the right one? I think it's this one. If we go into manage and then look at column organization, this is a different view of the grade centre. And we've got the column name, the dates and the points possible. So this is a good overview. So you can see here we've got case research report and case research report. So what we can do is,
So which one would you choose in that case, Matt? Because there's different dates on both of those.
Yep. Organization. So probably under normal circumstances, the main ones that have been created will be the current date or sort of session date. And then the new one will probably be the previous year. So in this example, it's a bit back to front, but the dates are a bit of a giveaway. So if these are all 2023 and then this second one was 2022, then chances are that this one was one that was imported from the previous session. So you can, if you're absolutely positive 100% that this needs to be deleted, you can just delete it, but I do prefer that we rename it and hide it just in case. So to rename, we just go back into edit column info. And what I'll typically do is just put a dash remove on the end of it. So it makes it very obvious that this is the one that we want to remove, rather than putting number 2 or B or whatever the case is. So now it's called case research report dash remove. And now we can simply hide it from the instructor view. Now there's one point
And
here.
from students as well.
Yep. So this dark grey dot with the red slash through it, that indicates that students cannot see this column. So if we go into my grades here, which students have access to, then there's nothing here. They can't see any of the grade centre columns and the marks. If we go back to the grade centre. And there's hide from students on off. So this is a toggle. So if I click on that, then that grey circle and red strike through is gone. Now this is viewable by students under the My Grades, which should be.
There's probably no grades in there. No?
So under normal circumstances, that'll show up. Now, what can happen, and you need to be careful with this, you can hide this column from yourself, but because this is now viewable by students, if I go to hide from instructor view, this has now disappeared from your view. So as a staff member looking at the grade centre, that column has now disappeared. And you think no one can see it, but it is still viewable by students. So if we go back into manage column organisation, you can see it's still there and hidden, but it does not tell you if it's visible to students or not. So in this case it is. So if I show that. You need to make sure if you hide it from instructor view that it has to be hidden from students first. Otherwise, yeah, you can get yourself into trouble there. So
Probably
just
the
wanted
best.
sorry, yeah, just want to keep an eye on. Just can cause some problems.
Probably the best example that you might see of that is when you've got your I'm not sure if they still do it, but the practice test for the online exams, that is hidden from students and hidden from instructor view. So there's, well, actually, I don't know that it is hidden from students, but it is hidden from instructor view. So they can see their marks, but you can't, because it's not necessary for you to actually view that or pay much attention to that. They you can't see that column, but they can see their marks.
Okay, so now we'll just check the calculated grade and cumulative mark. So the cumulative mark is pretty self-explanatory. It's the cumulative mark of the grades and columns or the assessments. So as I said previously, we've got 3 assessments, 30%, 30%, 40%, which adds up to 100%. Now, in the case with the problems we've had with the turn it in column, because they've been added after the subject outline has been published, then it's not going to be included in the cumulative mark. So to see what's included in that, we again go into edit column information. If we scroll down to select columns, we can see here on the left what columns are available and what columns are actually selected in the cumulative mark. So in this case, we've got the 3. And you can actually see here, we've got the one that we renamed -remove. So again, it makes it very obvious that that's the one we don't want. So if we made a mistake and actually do want that one, so we can just click cross next to it, and that'll remove it. And then we can click on the one we want, copy it across, and submit it. Now, in the case of the Turnitin assessment, in that scenario, would probably, if there was 1 Turnitin out of 3 type of assessments, then we need to go here and find the correct one and move it across.
I
Click
think
on submit.
Al's got a question too, Matt.
Yeah, hi. I'm just wondering if there's an option. I know you can create a weighted column and pull in percentages. Can you do that to the cumulative column so that such that we can apply weightings for as we pull assessments in? Because the way I've been doing it, which just I'm sure isn't efficient, is making a new column as a percentage of an assessment. So if an assessment's worth 18%, I have to create a new column with 18% and pull that into the cumulative mark rather than apply the weighting at the time that we're pulling assessments in. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And unfortunately, that's you doing it the most efficient way.
Okay, all right.
The Blackboard Grade Centre isn't awesome in the scheme of things. And yeah, there's a few glaring holes in it. And unfortunately, yeah, that's sort of required in that case.
It's great. That's good that at least we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Yep. One thing I wanted to just comment on in the for all columns, there's an option here that says calculate as running total. For all columns in the Grade Centre, this is by default set as no and should be left as no. And if you do create a new column or you do have that Turnitin column, just check that this is set to no. If this is set to yes, then it's always hard to verbalize. But if these are set to yes, then if a mark is entered in the first one out of 30, then it ignores the second 2. And so if a student gets 30 for their first assessment, then the cumulative mark and the calculated grade will then add up to 100%. So it looks like they've already passed and got 100%, even though they've only had 1 assessment marked. So we've got to keep those as no, because obviously, they need to be totaled. And it's the total of the 3 that will give us the 100%, not just getting 100% of one of the assessments. If that makes sense. Now the calculated grade, that takes the mark and then calculates the grade that will then be sent to Banner at the end of the session when we do the grade transfer. So cumulative marks out of 100, it's then pulled into here and have some marks here. Then we can see that the cumulative mark is A2, and then that's automatically calculated into the calculated grade. Probably a little out of scope for this training if we have what's called grading schemas. So under manage grading schemas, we can see the schema here and the percentages that actually do that conversion and fail. So yeah, 0 to 49.5 is fail, 49.5 to 64.5 is a pass, so on and so forth. So that just shows you what the schema is. That's set by policy, and you shouldn't be going in here and changing it, but I just wanted to show you what that conversion is and how it's set up.
And the grading schema that's attached to the columns is a little bit different to the one that's attached to, is it different or is it the same, Matt? The one that's attached to the calculated grade?
So the calculated grade, if you go back into grading schemes. Oh,
That's a
sorry, no, the
letter.
calculated grade is letter. You're talking about the override.
Yeah, the
So
override.
So the override is completely different. So the override grade has nothing to do with, obviously, with the percentage or the mark. This is just set up so we can enter in our override grades here. So if we go back. So the calculated grades calculated automatically, and then obviously in certain scenarios you do need to do an administrative override, and just add that in here. So at the end of the session at grade transfer time, the grade transfer will go look at the administrative override first and go, okay, is there an administrative override? Yes, then I'll send this to Banner. If these are empty, then I'll go to calculated grade, pick up this grade and send that to Banner. If we go into calculated grade,
You can see
set as letter, and we're only taking the cumulative mark to do that conversion from the cumulative mark to the calculated grade. So should only be cumulative mark in selected columns. Again, calculated running total, no. So it's quite simple. And again, you know, if you do have problems with columns, you might have to update the cumulative mark, but typically the calculated grade should be set and doesn't need to be changed because it is only taking the cumulative mark.
Matt, can you explain to us what the green tick is all about, please?
The green tick is,
While we're here, I know we're
Yeah.
a bit out of order, but
yeah, that's okay. So the green tick just has to be there. It doesn't change anything from your point of view. It's a technical item that runs in the background, so it just needs to be set. I can't tell you, well, I know the reason why. It's with regards to the database in the back end for the grade transfer. But from your point of view, it's called set as external grade, which is this option here. So it can only be set to one column and it'll give you the green tick, but it needs to be set to the cumulative mark. So the cumulative mark has to be set to the external grade. If it's not, it just can cause problems at grade transfer time. So just a weird anomaly. It just has to be done. If your assessments are all satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or all of them, then the green tick does not have to be anywhere. And if it's all set up via the subject outline, you won't see it at all. So it's only needs to be there if one of your assessments has a score. So just one of those things to sort of keep an eye on. Just a bit of a weird one.
tricky one. Can we adjust column? So we've done hide columns. Have we adjusted column orders?
Yep. So if, as we were talking about before, if this case research report column was at the end, and we know looking at the the subject outline that their assessment 1, 2, 3 are in this order, and you want to move it back, we can just go back into column organization, which will give us this different overview, and you can see the little crosses on the left here, and when you curse over, with the mouse over, it changes. So you can just grab it and drag it up to where you want. and you do need to submit it for that change to stay in place. So yeah, in this case, I've moved the grade comments up to the next accumulative mark. If we want to move it back, we can do that. And you can also show and hide columns in this view as well. But again, to make those changes, you need to make changes and to submit. It's not an automated save. Been through hide columns. Sharon, if you want to talk about the final exam columns.
Yeah, I haven't got an example to show you, but I think we'll just pretend. So Matt, could you just put one of the columns at the end of your grade centre, just say report personal leadership development plan, and we'll just pretend that that's the final mark. Could you put it at the end of your? Oh, that's heaps better. Thank you. Okay, so when your online exams are provisioned, like when they're deployed into your sites, you'll get a column that says online final exam or something like that. It's usually click here for for ABC 1, 2, 3 final exam, online exam. And that's the column where all of your students' marks will go. Now, from your grade centre, from your subject outline when it was provisioned early in the session, you will already have a mark, say let's just pretend that you've already got a mark that's sitting in you. Yeah, that's going to do it, which is great. That last mark, that it'll just sit before that'll just sit before your cumulative mark. And that one is the one that was provisioned by the subject outline tool. If you go to the end, Matt, that's the one this is the one that was deployed by your exam, and that's where you have all your final exam marks. Now, if that final column is okay, and it's exactly as your subject outline dictates, it might be 40 or 30%, then you can actually link that exam column into your cumulative mark and take out the final exam one, and your cumulative mark will be fine. If not, and more likely than not, that exam will be weighted differently to the one that has been to that exam column will be weighted differently. Well, the exam mark will be different to the one that was stipulated in your subject outline. And that's where you have to download your grade centre. And well, first of all, you download your grade centre, and then you give it, oh, sorry, Matt, thank you.
Actually, I'll just quickly put a mark in first.
Okay, that's great.
So that's it, 60.
Okay, so you can see here the final exam mark is 55, and the mark for the final exam, what did you weight that at? 40, was it? Yeah, 40.
Yeah, so this column, via the subject outline is
40.
ultimately at 40.
Okay. So basically you have to make the sum of the mark. You're creating and I can't even remember the calculation now, but the sum of your weighting that online final exam mark into the 40. So you would go to the 40 column where the mark is scored at 40. Yep, back. And I think it's sum equals, and I'm only going on memory here. You guys probably have a better idea about this than I do. Anybody got any suggestions here? We have got this calculation in our help, and I think it's sum equals 50 over 4 multiplied by 40 over 1. But that's where you weight it. Now, once that's put in there, yeah.
So yeah, you create a formula to
Yeah.
basically change the score out of 60 to 40.
Yeah.
So you can just use an Excel formula to do that conversion.
And
this
drag it all
might,
down.
So this might be ultimately return 38 and drag down and control D or whatever it is. So then you've got your scale marks here. And then you can save that.
And if you back up, if you upload that back into Grade Centre, that mark.
Sharon and Matt, is the new LMS going to do this automatically? I
We don't
can't
know.
believe that we still do have to do this. There's so much room for error.
Yeah, no, there is.
Yeah, totally.
We're not sure whether it will or not. We're thinking it will.
Blackboard does do it automatically. Sorry,
pardon?
not Blackboard, Brightspace.
It does it? Great. Have you worked with it before?
Yeah, I have. Although my understanding is that you can purchase different levels of
We
learning
better
modules.
buy the
so
right level this
yeah,
time.
whether you get the best one or not, I don't know.
I think that might be the same with a lot of LMSs, because I
Yeah.
think that was the same with Blackboard as well.
Yeah, I think so too.
We better
those
pass
years
that
ago.
on to Graham Brown that we need that functionality.
We need the top version.
Yeah, it's look, it's not a hard process. I can't remember the calculation, but it's by no means difficult. It's just another step that you guys have to do. And that's what causes an issue.
Yeah.
I had an issue with it the other day where I had it wasn't that issue, but it was something else, and I downloaded someone's Grade Centre and uploaded it again, and my name was all over it. It frightened the living daylights out of me. I said to Matt, "What do I do here?" And he said, "Don't panic, it's okay." But there's a lot of things that I think that we didn't stipulate in Blackboard that I think maybe they have. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to any promises there.
We're going through the initial basic training at the moment for Brightspace, but we've yet to get to the Grade Centre side of things. So yeah, when that does, I'll have some more information to share.
That'd be great, Matt. So next time, perhaps when we do this, you will be able to say yay or nay on that.
Possibly. It's a big project, obviously, and yeah, I'm not running it, so I'm sort of involved in learning as we go. But yeah, there's obviously the project teams doing it all.
Yeah,
But
great.
yeah, as I know more, I'm happy to share. So that's fine.
That'd be great. Thank you. So yeah, so
just on this, when you do the upload, you get this sort of screen that you can confirm what's actually happening before you do it. So you don't sort of, if you've got something wrong, you can see what's going to happen before you pull the trigger. So you can see here in the final exam, we did that conversion, and you can see here we entered that 1 mark, which was 38. So that looks correct. So all the matches, yes, so all the columns match what we're uploading, and we've got that 1 mark that will be updated. So you go submit. You can now see
And
here
that's
the final exam's got that converted mark.
now I don't know. I think this is where, yeah, no, and that Matthew checked earlier about that final exam mark being integrated into the cumulative mark, which it is. So hence the cumulative mark has changed to the right mark for the student.
Yeah, if this was set up correctly,
Yeah,
it would.
you set it up earlier. Yeah.
So
but
you
as I
would-
said, you can, if your final exam column is correct and in keeping with your subject outline, you can use that column and just phase it in or out of the cumulative mark, as Matt showed before. But if it's not, then you have to do that calculation, and you're better off to use that column that's already been provisioned. Does that make sense, guys? Kind of clear as mud? Yeah. Okay.
Right, yes.
Okay, so all right, so that's that.
Sorry, Sharon.
Go for it.
Just a question really about would there be like a step by step sort of breakdown on how to figure out the weighted marking and
Yes,
what,
there is.
let's
There
say
is on.
cumulative yeah, oh, that's great.
Yeah, we've got a step by step how to adjust your marks, and I'll point you in that direction at the
Oh,
end,
that
of,
would be
end
great.
of this. But yes, no, we do have quite an extensive help on this as well.
Won't need
Like,
to
you know,
bother Ali then.
yeah.
So we've got
He loves it.
we've got quite extensive sort of video tutorials as well by my predecessor. Created those, so they're quite extensive. The look and feel is a bit different, like the theme of the blackboard's a bit different, but it's all there and it's all exactly the same.
Is there a specific place where we go to access them, or
Yes,
would you be emailing them?
No, I'll send you to. I'll
Thank
give you
you.
a link, because we actually have quite an extensive
Yeah.
website on this.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. Thank you.
like, it's too tricky to just let everybody fly by the seat of their pants. So we've actually done some stuff on this one. Okay, so we've had a look at adjusting final marks. We've had a look at the final exam columns. We've had a look at the green tick. We've also got a grade centre health check area, which I used the other day and found invaluable. I'm not sure. Matt, can you access that?
Yeah, so the if we go to, and we'll send out these links. So the Grade
That's the-
Centre help website, you know, it's quite comprehensive.
This is the site that I was talking about earlier, like when you were asking the questions. All of the information is in this site and this link.
So the introduction to the Grade Centre video, 23 minutes, is quite long but invaluable. Grade Centre setup. So it is, yeah, quite marking is quite extensive. But what we do have here is what we call the Grade Centre health check. And these are reports that are generated automatically overnight. I'll upload them Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays to the website. So if we check one of these, it actually goes through and highlights potential issues with the Grade Centre. So, you know, we're talking earlier about duplicate columns. I probably didn't emphasize enough on how bad duplicate column names are. So obviously when we're making calculations and particularly transferring at the end of session, you know, if you've got two columns that are named the same, it can cause issues. So we should never have any columns by the same name. And you'll see a lot of these are that exact problem, and that's because people import from the previous session and double up. You know, another one here, calculated grade is visible to students. You don't typically want that. And each of these has a link on how to fix it. And you'll be taken to a video, again, made by.
And Matt and
Well,
Sharon, the subjects team, at least the Faculty of Science subjects team, actually run these at various points throughout the session and send them to the academics that have issues. So I don't know if all the faculties do that, but Faculty of Science definitely do.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
amazing.
sure. Yeah, that is amazing. I'm not sure whether what the other faculties do. I know we just point you to this website.
Mm.
I certainly appreciate it. Because ultimately it comes back to me to fix.
Can I just ask on this issue, one of the issues that we have in medicine, because we've got 30 odd assessment items, because we're one big subject, they all get pulled obviously from the subject outline, but then when we create a new test or the new assignment and turn it in, it populates a new column. So we end up with all these columns. And we're really careful about naming so that we, you know which one's just the dummy one from the subject outline, which is the real one. But do you suggest in terms of tidying up Grade Centre, do we delete the unwanted columns or just hide them, or does it not matter? Like I just
I sort of call it a rule of thumb. If I say to everybody, yes, you can delete it,
Yeah.
then people that shouldn't be deleting things start deleting things.
Yeah.
So it is up to you. Yes, you can delete it if you're 100%
Yeah.
and you're fully confident, then yes, you can delete it.
Mm.
But rule of thumb is, I say, rename and hide just in case, because it doesn't hurt anything. You know, it doesn't affect the system, and it can only, if you hide it from instructor view, then
Yeah.
you can only see it if you're in that other view.
And if we make sure the names are slightly different or but still meaningful, that will help, you know, us not get those red flags on the health check. Is that right? So it's just when the naming is exactly the same.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
just when the column's named identically. Correct.
Thank you.
So Matt and Ali, and this is just thought on my part, the subject outline tool item that comes at the bottom of your left-hand navigation bar once your subject view outline is provisioned. If you're not, yeah, that one hasn't got one, Matt.
No, okay.
But if you're not, that will provision an empty space like a shell for any of the I2 tools. Like it might be a journal, it might be a test, might be a blog, any of the tools. Now, if you're not using that particular shell, you could delete that subject outline tool item and the columns for that will disappear out of your grade center. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're deploying your own test, like you've got a test that you're deploying for assessment item 1, say, and it's sitting in your test surveys and pools area, and you're going to deploy it to your side navigation bar into assessment item 1 area, but you're not going to use that subject outline tool item for that subject, for that test. I'm not sure what Matt thinks on this, but I'm thinking that the deletion of that subject outline tool item might alleviate some of the duplication of columns that you guys might get. Does that make sense?
Yes, you could. Or you can
Sorry,
just-
Ali, I think you were speaking in.
So I'm not sure where the subject outline tool item
It sits,
appears.
I don't know if I've got one.
See.
I can't, I've got my screen all completely shared. It sits, you know, your left-hand side navigation bar where you've got your assessment items, all the things, right at the very bottom, like the day your subject outline is provisioned. And from then on, you'll see, that's it, the subject outline tool item. Can you see where Matthew's going now? And we've got here an online test scoring and interpretation questions. Now, I'm pretty sure, Matt, if you open that, I'm pretty sure that will be empty. It's just a shell, I'm sure. If you just begin. Or even just edit it at the, if you edit the test. No, that one actually has got things in it.
Okay.
Generally speaking, that will be, so somebody's actually using that. Generally speaking, that will be just a shell. Now, if that were your subject, you would know where you had populated that test. And this person has actually populated that test in there. So he's actually using his subject outline tool item columns. But if you're not, then that is a way of alleviating some duplication of columns.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
That's okay.
One question I get a lot is when sessions are copied from one session to the next, then obviously all the exams and grade center columns are transferred across. Now, if you do that and then you have tests from the previous session that are now listed in here, and the associated grade column is also created, a lot of people just try to delete the grade center column, and you can't because it's associated with this actual test in here. So if you do want to delete a column that's associated with a quiz or a journal or whatever the case is, you need to actually come into the tests or blog and delete the actual test here first, and then you can go in and delete the grade center column. Otherwise,
Does that have any impact on the last years that attempted the test?
no, it's a complete independent copy, so it won't have any bearing on the previous session.
And often that happens when you go to export and import, when you go to export, people go select all. And that will select all of the things that really shouldn't be selected. So it's that export import, a little bit of selective, a selective eye over that is often better than just select all.
Yeah, because 5 minutes of work to just be sure of what you're copying across is what you need will save hours of trying to resolve issues in the new site, that because you've copied all these things across that you shouldn't have.
Yeah, no, that makes all sense. I'll just show you the last. We've answered some questions. Interact2 help site. These are the helps. That's the I2 help and support site. There you grade between the champions. That's the Sherwell link, and that's the health check. So all of those basically can be found in this. This is my go-to page if I need to find out things, and the calculation on the marking is sitting under marking in Grade Centre. Can you just scroll down, Matt, please, to on that side? And that's, yeah, if you just go down a little bit further. I think it's scaling assessment items in the Grade Centre. If you just go into there. Oh, wait a minute. No, just a little bit further down. No, it must be scaling. It's one of those. It has a strange name. But I think it's scaling marking in the Grade Centre, maybe. Can you just click into that for me, please? No, it's not that one. It must be when you're scaling the marks. So if you just go back, Matt, please. Just up a little bit. I saw scaling marks. Scaling assessment items in Grade Centre. See above, just down a little bit. No, just there. Yep. Yeah, scroll down a little bit. That should take us to just that. Should take us to a calculation in. No, that's different again. Somewhere there in there, I'll have a look for you, but somewhere in there, just to make sure it's right, there is a calculation that you drop into Excel. I just need to find it. So, yeah.
And,
so that.
Yeah, just one last thing. Your Grade Centre champions. So sort of your first port of call is the help site and all the videos in here. If you still can't figure out what you're trying to do, then you can go to your Grade Centre champion. You are the functional experts. So just go to some schools and the associated champion. If they can't help, then just raise a DIT ticket, which will get routed to me and I can help you out.
Or a show or request. Either one of those.
Yep.
And that's it, guys.
Right on time.
Yeah. Everybody
So
happy?
Can I ask one more quick question? Sorry, I've asked so many.
Of
That's
course
okay.
you can.
Is it possible to change? I noticed that there's 2 decimal points in all the columns, which gives a false sense of accuracy that shouldn't be there when there's percentages. Can you change that, or is it set?
I think you can.
Isn't it policy though, the decimal places?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it.
You can
Yes.
change it, but I think it's policy.
Yeah. So if you've got any questions or think of anything afterwards, just shoot me an email directly or Sharon, and yeah, we'll respond and help you out.
Oh, good. And thank you very much for coming today. It was lovely to meet you all. And yeah, have
Yeah,
a really good day.
we'll
Thank you.
shoot through the link for the recording.
That'd be
Thanks a
great.
lot.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.